appropriately approach it.
Wait. I'm just gonna real quick interrupt you and say, then please say what you're saying because I want to hear. Are you gonna forget if I interrupt you? Hold it. Okay. You're like holding. Kevin's like holding his thought. I just want to insert one quick thing about what you're saying, which is that, and because it ties to both Vincent's thing about, okay, the collective human story over so many generations, and then you're talking about, wow, these people who are actually all men who, you know, have said these deep things and written these things. And I just think it's of note that our collective story that we tend to have is dominated by men thinking about life and love and everything else, and having all the pages in all the books and all the annals in all the libraries, because for so long, most overall in the volume of collective saved words and philosophizing that we have, it's men who had the chance to be recorded. And it's really a tiny little sliver of time that women have entered the chat. And how sad is it that literally an entire, most generally, you could say roughly half of human population throughout human civilization, like we don't really have that much content on what they were philosophizing about and love. And there's a little bit, but if you look at the volume, it's, to me, that's just crazy that isn't more. You know, we're coming in and we're bouncing off of this backdrop of this collective story Vincent is mentioning and all this beautiful stuff. You know, not that it's not beautiful, but like it is missing half of the perspective of humanity for most of it, you know, like.
Yeah, unfortunately, I can't name a single woman philosopher before
when we talk
the
about
17th century.
The male gaze, Gaze, this is some of what it's saying, which is that if you don't recognize that what is treated as neutral and standard in any topic of anything, intellectual pursuit, love, philosophy, if you don't recognize the standard we're coming into is men's thought is treated as the neutral, then you're just kind of not looking at like the facts of history and the knowledge base that we've come now into this position from. So
take it a step further. Have either of you ever heard of any or read any or seen any Kurdish literature?
There you go. That too.
So the point that I'm trying to prove is fuck the half, Leslie. We're talking about 80%. Because when you talk about what I just said, all these different philosophers, you're limiting it to the Euro-Anglo dynamic. So it's not just
I
women.
agree, but
it's not just white, wealthy.
Yeah.
Like we don't know about, and like so it's limited greater than 50%, right? It's not just a men and women thing. It's a men within the Euro-Anglo experience. Like there's anyway.
Absolutely. But there's within other cultures, for those cultures, there's at least some artifacts in general, right? Like there are stories, there are drawings, and within that,
the Kurdish people.
I don't know about Kurdish people specifically, but in general, like what's highlighted in academia and the general broader consciousness, which is seeming to be dominated by like Western thought, like what you're saying is true. But then if you were to go to different countries and cultures, like you could find some content in most cases, I think. Right, it's just that it's not
in any culture that has a written language. Yes, you're so there's like oral cultures, right? You have no drawing, no written. It's all or like it's passed, which is why griot is a thing in West Africa. There's a term called a griot for someone who holds all the stories of the tribe. And there's a saying that Dave Chappelle talks about: when the griot dies in West Africa, they say it's like a library burned down because they lost all of this wealth. And so, like in any culture, society, or whatever that like somehow notated those experiences, yes, but like you're again limiting it to just people who actually translate or actually transcribe their experiences, whether it be pictorially or words. So like,
yeah,
I'm just taking the.
But in the vein you were talking about that vein, and that's the vein I was also talking about. But yes, you're right. It isn't just limited to gender.
Yeah, you were just saying 50%. Yeah. I was saying greater than 50.
Yeah. Anyway, so what were you gonna say?
I did lose it.